Welcome to No Church Answers, a weekly roundtable Bible discussion for men. We're not pastors, just regular guys talking about scriptures and their own spiritual journeys. And now, here's your host, Bill Cox.
And welcome to No Church Answers. My name is Bill Cox, and we're here with the guys from Man Up Spiritual Oasis for Men, called Gritty, Authentic, and Unexpectedly Funny. And we're going to go ahead at this time, and I'm going to introduce him right now. He is a former world-class policy writer, a current professional gambler. He is the show producer. That's Mr. Steve Titch.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, a former prosecutor and attorney, kind of the group historian. We call him the judge. It's Michael Cropper.
Hey, Mike. Guys, how are you?
And a big deal in talent development. And for you uninitiated out there, that is a professional trainer. We call him the professor. It's a Robert Koshu. He is back.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, Robert. And my name is Bill Cox. I'm basically a writer, indie filmmaker, but I work as a contractor so I can afford to pay for that kind of stuff. So, and with that, we're going to go ahead and jump right in. And I'm going to go ahead and let the judge introduce this particular topic.
Folks, we're going to look at the book of Ecclesiastes, if you want to get out your Bible with us. And we look at the first few verses in chapter 1 and chapter 2. Ecclesiastes is about Solomon, and I call it the life of a very unhappy man. Vanity of vanities, he says. All is vanity. Solomon is the author. He's King David's son. Solomon is famous for his incredible wisdom and vast wealth. And in his early days as king over Israel, Solomon loved God, and he actually sought him and was very happy doing so. At least this is what we get the impression from the scriptures and Kings. However, he became sidetracked, and he continued to seek wisdom and knowledge outside of God. Now, as he grows older, he becomes perplexed when he realizes that death will end his journey, and there is nothing he can do about it. Riches cannot add time to his life. He had searched for a greater purpose to life than God for much of his life toward the end. And the answer to Solomon was quite simple. God gave us life as a miserable task to keep us occupied.
Hey, that's cheerful.
Wow. Okay.
Self-centered. Okay, folks. Notice if you read the first two chapters that I talked about, Ecclesiastes 1-2, notice that Solomon only talks about himself except when he complains about leaving his wealth to the one who comes after him. So for men, this should be an amazing video cast to repeat Solomon's testimony. I lived, I reigned, I loved God, I sought knowledge, I worshipped other gods, I explored sensual pleasure with many women, which is a dream of many men.
Right.
Many is an understatement there. I'm just going to clarify that.
Yeah. We're going to go back to Robert in this time. Anyway.
Wow, this is a total man discussion. Going to go ahead and go to Steve Titch.
Well, Ecclesiastes is a very relevant book. 3,000 years before Jean-Paul Sartre sat in a French cafe and looked into his empty coffee cup and thought about the meaningless and absurdity of life, Solomon wrote it all down. And that's what you rarely hear Ecclesiastes preached on. I think most Christians and most people are familiar with the Birds, their version "Turn."
Right.
Yeah. Which was actually the music was composed by Pete Seeger. I played it this morning. It's in my head right now.
Nice.
But that's sometimes people's only exposure to it. But it was one of the difficult books because it asks: is everything? Is there any purpose to life? Is everything meaningless? It's right out there. And this, as you said, is really open to question as to what's going on with Solomon, because he's believed to be the author of the book. But we'll take that from here, and we're looking into his private journals of who was, if we follow it, if not the richest, one of the richest men and powerful men in the world at the time.
And if the rich and powerful feel that way, then what's in it for us? Professor.
So Solomon's take was wine, women, and song, and riches on top of that. And in today's world, that's what we see and what we hear. You know, he who has the most toys wins. Wine, women. Yeah, Mike's joke about many women. Yeah, that's like an understatement. Somewhere around 900 wives, 2,000 concubines, some crazy number that I've added it up, and I'm trying to figure out how he managed it.
Right.
You know, but at the end of the day, he looks at everything and he says, "What have I done? What have I accomplished?" I think this was probably written in Solomon's midlife crisis phase. You know, there's a lot going on right now about men and depression and feelings of inadequacy, partially because we've taken what men are designed to do, which was go out, hunt, gather, and all that, and then we compress that into go to an office. And we started out with when all men left the farm, you went to a factory and you built something. So at the end of the day, it looked good, it felt good. If you're like most of us, and a vast majority of men today are, you're not making things at your office. You're forwarding emails, you're answering emails, you're generating your TPS report, you know, with your red stapler on your desk.
Right.
And what at the end of the day do you have to show for it? And I think that's where a lot of men start questioning, is this all there is at the end of the day? And so that causes us to come back to Ecclesiastes and start asking, if it's all meaningless, then what does give us meaning?
Absolutely.
Excellent. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and read the actual scripture that this discussion is referencing. And this is Ecclesiastes 1, 12 through 14, and then 16 through 17. I, the teacher, have been king over Israel in Jerusalem. I've applied my mind to seek and explore through wisdom all that is done under the heaven. God has given people this miserable task to keep them occupied. I have seen all the things that are done under the sun and have found everything to be futile, a pursuit of the wind. I said to myself, look, I have amassed wisdom far beyond all those who were over Jerusalem before me, and my mind has thoroughly grasped wisdom and knowledge. I applied my mind to know wisdom and knowledge, madness and folly. I learned that this too is a pursuit of the wind. Really cheerful. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take the break. This is No Church Answers. We will be right back. Hi, I'm Bill Cox, host of No Church Answers and director of Man Up, Spiritual Oasis for Men. We hope you enjoy our show as much as we enjoy doing it. But our ministry needs your support if we are to continue to bring our TV show, our podcast, our live shows to men seeking spiritual refreshment. For as little as $5 a month, you can become a patron of Man Up Spiritual Oasis. Get more details at our page on patreon.com. If you would like to support us directly, you can make a contribution through PayPal at donate@manupmedia.org. All contributions are tax deductible. We're not pastors, just regular guys, so whether you're successful or struggling, we hope to bring you the good news of God's saving grace as we share our own spiritual journeys. Please consider supporting Man Up and No Church Answers today. And welcome back, everybody. This is No Church Answers. We are here with the guys from Man Up Spiritual Oasis for Men, and we're just talking about what is life about. And basically, we have used the text from Ecclesiastes, and this is Solomon. And what I wanted to bring up and just kind of throw out is that, you know, God provides us with the gifts, okay? It is up to us to find our purpose. And I think that is a responsibility of being a man. And I just want to go ahead and just throw that out there. You have gifts. Find a way to apply them. And I think that if you don't have a purpose, that helps you find your purpose. Just want to throw that out there to the fellas. And Steve Titch.
It's an interesting thought, and I wonder if the whole book itself, when you wrap it up, is a call for a role of religion in finding that purpose. It is, as Mike pointed out, Solomon, the author, spends a lot of time talking about himself and everything he's done, and it I want to say meanders, but ultimately it gets to the conclusion very similar to other prophets that it's the fear of God that injects meaning. So part of that, Bill, it seems to be, yes, we have a responsibility for finding our purpose, and when we get lost in that search, that's the thing. Which Robert's pointing to. Yeah, you add it all up at the end of the day, and finding that it doesn't add up to much. Where do you turn? And although it seems church answering,
Right.
it seems to be about turning to God.
It's the journey, though.
Absolutely.
It's not the
Right.
destination.
No
It's
question.
not the destination. And I go back to the example that I've shared about the girl who wanted to be a Girl Scout because she wanted to earn the badges, where her dad goes to a garage sale and buys the badges and gives them to her. And it ruined her life and her ambition to be a Girl Scout. But see, that's the thing. You take meaning when you pursue truth.
But I'm gonna throw a wrinkle on that, because what if you did earn the in the case the Girl Scout honors or the Boy Scout merit badges or Eagle, but you look back on that and suddenly decide, well, what did it really add up to be? I mean, what happens when something you see in your 30s or 40s was really important, really, I did that, and you get to be 50 or 60, and I think he's a little older. I think he's looking back on his life.
he's
We
looking
don't
at the
know,
end.
but you look back and you realize, you decide, all the things I did that I thought were important really weren't. Is that can you be depressed about that, or is that a jumping off point for something else?
I think it's both. I think it's some of both, and I'm going to jump on the Boy Scout one because both of my kids were in Boy Scouts. Neither one made Eagle. Steve's son did.
Reflected glory.
Actually, it was on his Eagle board, and I am going to say Steve's
title anyway.
right. Well, Steve's son did it right. Where I've had a lot of problems with Scouts recently, and I'm going to circle back real quick, is there was a rush to get to Eagle. I watched kids 13 and 14 get Eagle, who basically were Boy Scouts for 2 to 3 years. And then the thing was, once they got Eagle, they were nowhere to be found. They disappeared.
Right.
Versus staying in Scouts and getting the whole program. Part of what we've done, we've taken a lot of meaning out of things like that. And I'm going to even say this. We've even taken meaning out of our church experience because it's become a check the box thing. Okay, I got to go to church. Check. Made my donation. Check. Went to Sunday school. Check. Oh, men's breakfast. Ooh, double check because I did something extra. And I'm not worried about how does that faith impact me daily. How do I go out and actually interact? And so what we've done is we've destroyed the meaning behind the message, and it makes it meaningless. And I think that's part of what Solomon's problem was. Solomon, early on in his life, he definitely had a relationship with God. I think after he built the temple, because it seems like Solomon's life is divided into 2 phases. Before the temple was built, and then after the temple. And the temple is kind of, the temple being built and the dedication of the temple is kind of a turning point with him. And then we don't hear much after that other than wives and concubines and things. And so I think when we get to that point where we're just checking the box on our faith, that leads to the meaninglessness that we see in life.
I think the thing about it is that the only person that Solomon served was God. Everybody else served him. And I think that is the same problem that we as men have. Okay? And that's why I like to go and serve down at Loaves and Fishes, because everybody else I see is either a customer of mine or a potential customer.
Yes.
A potential customer of mine, so I have to be nice to them, or they work for me, so I'm trying to get the most value out of them, or I'm related to them. You know, it's my wife and my kids. You know what I'm saying? Whereas when I'm down, just randomly serving people, I'm just serving. You know, I'm just doing what God commanded. And it's a nice feeling to not expect something from people and not have this vaulted view of myself. Dude, I'm just handing out plates. I ain't doing, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm just being a server, but I'm giving to these people. I expect nothing back. I'm not trying to sell to them. I'm not trying to manipulate them. And I think he missed that relationship, you know, with people.
I think, yeah, I all this, you guys are hitting the nail on the head. Solomon pursued knowledge, and it became his God. He had pride. He became proud at the end. He says, look, I've amassed wisdom far beyond all those who were over Jerusalem before me, and my mind has thoroughly grasped wisdom and knowledge. I've grasped everything. There's nothing more for me to get. And he lost sight of the important things in the world, which is what you guys said, and that's balance. Adam and Eve wanted to know everything just like God. I think Solomon wanted to know everything like God and be God. And they wanted to know what good and evil was, and their conclusion took them away from the Lord and brought sin into the world. Solomon became the center of his own universe, like you guys have said. He lost sight of God's plan for his life. He never recovered so that he would enjoy life again, although he discovered what he missed, and by that time he regretted it. So the question here, folks, do you keep your family in perspective? Do you thank God for them? Solomon, you don't hear him say any of that. You don't say him, thank you, God, for what you gave me, the riches and everything. Thank you. He did that early in his life in Kings, whenever David gave him the kingdom, when he became the king. But he doesn't say that at the end. Instead, he says, I'm about to lose everything I work for, and I'm disgruntled, and I'm unhappy.
I think as men, we have, not only do we have an epidemic of depression in the midlife and older, it's just that men don't go through reinvention very well. They've built their whole lives based on, almost as if it's they've constructed a building brick by brick. I was an athlete, and then I went to college, and then I did this, and then I did this. And so they get up to a certain level, and they're looking for the next level. But in life, and particularly in the way it has changed in recent years, the speed of it, a man oftentimes feels like they're in a tumbler, and you're expected to lead, and you don't even really know where you're going yourself. You feel like somebody asks me for direction about what's going on with the economy or something, and if I gave them any advice, I feel like a liar. I have no idea. And by the time I'm this age, I would expect to be accomplished. It's just not that way.
I think one of the keys to that is we know, we study since, in Sunday school, how Solomon, the day he was coronated and the day they had the ceremony, the first thing he did was pray for wisdom to God, for divine wisdom. And we all say, what a good thing to do.
What a good guy.
Which is not but is there, but by the end, kind of what happened. What was? Is there a difference between divine wisdom and worldly wisdom? Because he seems to be building Ecclesiastes all about things like you said. I agree with you. All about the worldly wisdom. He tried, and he probably had exposure to everything. Every religion that was around, every mode of thought.
All the girls brought the religion with them.
So what is? And plus, he built things. He was well versed in the way the world worked. Yeah. Yet he is. My question is, what is the difference between divine wisdom and worldly wisdom, and how much did Solomon lose sight of that?
I think he was disappointed. I think that he attacked it. He wanted worldly and divine wisdom, and he thought that if he had it all, he'd be able to figure it all out. But then when he realized when he got it all, I think that he was disappointed.
Yes, life is really simple. If you see God as the center of the universe, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't, you see yourself as the center of the universe and everything else, then it becomes complex, right? And you've heard the expression, we get overwhelmed with too much information or too much knowledge, and we cannot see the forest for the trees. We can't see the stars for the sky, whatever it is, those little expressions. I think you're absolutely right, Bill. I think he got overwhelmed and lost sight of it. And by the time he figured out what he did, it was too late. Or he thought it was too late in his mind.
But see, I think it's more than that. I think it's not only an overwhelming that you come in, but it's also a realization that there is nothing else but God at the center. And I think part of what we see in today's society is everyone is pursuing their thing. People are pursuing, if you're a career-minded guy, you're pursuing the top of that pyramid.
Right.
If you're a money guy, you're pursuing money. If you're a car guy, you're looking for the latest, greatest car that you can rebuild the motor on, and you're not putting God at the center and realizing that, hey, there is a foundational base here. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, one of my most interesting. He lived in the concentration camps, and he determined that the ones who survived were the ones who had internalized they had to survive on their meaning. Those that gave up are the ones that died. Now, I'm not talking about the ones that run to the gas chamber. I'm talking about the ones that were slowly put to death. Because literally, that's what they were doing. Frankl had figured that out. Frankl was Jewish, almost an atheist, and I think he missed the boat at the other level because there is a point where your faith has to come into play for you to get beyond and get over that hump. I think there's a meaningfulness within faith that once you internalize it, when bad things happen, and bad things are going to happen, FYI,
right.
But it gives you something to fall back on and realize that, hey, it's not the end of the road. There is more beyond this.
Let me repeat a couple of things you just said, and guys, and of course, we have to end up pretty quick here. Ultimately, the order of life should be love God, love your family, appreciate them, love your neighbors, and then you get the leftover residual time.
That's good,
and then
Mike.
finally,
That's
the
good,
takeaways are, folks, and Bill said this so clearly. I think I said amen when he said this. Life is all about the journey. Find joy in your journey. Find joy in your life now. Don't wait till you've saved all this money and think you've reached a pedestal or a goal. Enjoy it right now. Learn to enjoy, make other people happy. Ask people about their family, compliment them, smile, greet people, encourage them. Steve?
Yeah. And this is different from the kind of, don't worry, be happy. This is too many people, and this is a factor of American life. You're always looking over the horizon. I only have to get there. I only have to get there, and then I'll be happy. I only have to get there. And like each little brick is going, and no! I mean, yes, certainly set goals for yourself.
Right.
Figure out what your purpose is. But do it, but don't forget the here and now. And I think that's kind of a little bit behind the don't worry about what's coming next. In a way, it was maybe what Jesus said, don't worry about, look at the lilies of the field. Take the moment and do it. And because I'm going to kick it back to you, I'm glad we did this study because Solomon, from little kids' Bible study, he's viewed as the great hero.
Yes.
And I'm glad we're looking at this because even the heroes in the Bible are flawed. It's only God who's flawless.
That's right.
And it's important to look sometimes at where the direction Solomon went. And we tend to focus on the early part of Solomon's career, the wisdom, the baby story. Now, everybody knows, of course, the story about the baby and the two women who claim to be the mothers, and of course, Queen of Sheba. But this is him at the end, looking back, and maybe he's having this crisis.
We actually discussed a lot about this in our audio podcast 156, Is Reality Broken? Where we took Jane McGonigal's book, Is Reality Broken, had the jumping off point. So I'd encourage everybody, go listen to that podcast. We spent a whole hour talking about this, by the way, in the middle of the pandemic.
The thing about meaning that I just want to bring up, blue-collar workers have less of a problem with meaning of their jobs than white-collar workers. And the reason why is because they can actually see what the fruits of their labors are. Whereas, say you're a money manager or something like that, where you're watching numbers on screen instead of actually the actual interaction or the creating of it. And I think to a certain extent, that's why Solomon felt this way. Because think about this. In a way, life was easy for him. He was on top of the world, and yet he's trying to find meaning from a struggle that was not there. He did not have the struggle. And so my takeaway is this. Don't always take the easy way. Sometimes take the hard way. It will add so much more meaning. And if you don't have a purpose in life, and I know there's a fair amount of people that, you finish one goal, you have to find the next one. You have to find a purpose. But if you don't, seek truth. Because as you seek truth and you'll find a truth for yourself, you'll find a purpose. Okay, say you don't find a purpose, all right? But all you did is you sought truth. You'll look back and you'll say, that was an honest life. That was honest effort on my part. And so with that,
Bill gave one. Wow.
Right. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is No Church Answers. My name is Bill Cox. I'm here with the guys from Man Up, Spiritual Oasis for Men podcast. Thank you for tuning in.
You've been watching No Church Answers, a weekly roundtable Bible discussion for men, a production of Man Up Spiritual Oasis. Want more? Check out the Man Up Spiritual Oasis for Men podcast, available wherever you download your podcast. And to learn more about us and how to support our ministry, visit our website at www.man-upspiritualoasis.com.